For more now, let's bring in former Air Force intelligence officer Jake Sotiriadis. Jake, welcome.
Good to see you, Mike.
So as an old Air Force guy, what do you make of the careful coordination between the United States Air Force and the Israeli Air Force in this complicated mission in Iran?
Well, Mike, I think it's nothing short of amazingly impressive. If you look at the sheer number of targets that have been taken out since the beginning of operations, the close coordination between the American and Israeli militaries, but also a real shout out to the brave men and women of the American intelligence community who are working behind the scenes to be able to pick targets, to identify critical nodes. And now you're seeing the campaign move into a phase of targeting critical infrastructure. I might say, though, we do have a little bit of a dilemma moving forward in that we are not striking, or the real goal is not to just decimate Iran's military. We are actually fighting Iran's ideological power network. And that means the network between the population elites and institutions within Iran that has been entrenched for over 40 years. And so the question is, to what extent can these strikes apply enough pressure to disrupt or fracture elements of that network so that we can get to our desired objectives?
Jake, as you know, there's a debate over whether U.S. boots on the ground will be needed. What are the limits of air power?
Mike, this is really the critical question right now. Obviously, the air campaign thus far, the military campaign, has been very, very effective. We've struck an amazing number of targets. Iran's Navy has been pretty much taken off the map. The question now becomes, if you look at historical examples, air attacks alone, air power alone has not historically led to regime change. You can go all the way back to World War II, to the combined bomber offensive, where cities like Dresden that were firebombed did not result in either the regime surrendering or the population giving up. So this is part of the calculus that needs to be taken into account when we think about the continued phases of the campaign. Will air power alone, will attacks from the air be able to break up that network that I talked about, exert enough pressure on the regime without having to use ground forces? And of course, we're seeing that the ground force option is not being taken off the table. It's not being discussed very, very much, but it's certainly something that's going to be in the calculus over the next weeks, because in my opinion, we are very much in the beginning phases of this campaign, and I think it's going to last a long time longer.
Democrats have their criticisms. I want to play a clip from Senator Chris Murphy, and I will get you to react to it.
This is already a war that is becoming an ongoing disaster. It gets worse if the president is talking about putting ground forces in. You're talking at that point about dozens, if not hundreds, of new American casualties. If you don't actually succeed in putting a new leader inside that country, they'll just be able to rebuild that capacity as soon as American forces are gone. So this is $1 billion waste of money every single day.
In your view, is there any reason for that level of pessimism?
Look, Mike, I think we need to be very circumspect here. We are this is the tip of the iceberg in terms of military operations. We have many, many more phases of the campaign that are going to unfold. We haven't yet seen the extent to which the real pressure that is being exerted on the Iranian regime right now is going to take effect. There could be, over the next weeks, a true desire to come to the table and see if there can be some sort of a solution reached. That is going to be very difficult, though, because, again, as I've mentioned, if you're not able to break up that ideological power network, if you aren't able to exert enough pressure on the regime exclusively through air attacks, it is going to demand another solution. President Trump, as we've heard, has taken the option of using Kurdish resistance fighters off the table. The question is now, can the United States activate the resistance within Iran, the anti-regime resistance, through intelligence support, through perhaps arming them? That's not something that happens overnight. It's going to take time. And so I think right now we need to watch and see how effective the maximum pressure campaign that is being exerted right now will be. But I think the ground troops discussion is not done. It's one that we are going to have, and it's one that's going to be relevant moving forward in the next weeks and months.
Jake, what do you make of the use of relatively inexpensive drones in this conflict? And is the future of warfare here now?
Well, look, we definitely are seeing an unprecedented level of drones play a key role in this conflict on both sides, right? This is what the United States has been using. They were used in last Saturday's attack that took out the supreme leader. It is a new modicum of warfare, and we're seeing, of course, the Iranians do considerable damage to both civilian and military infrastructure throughout the Middle East region and even beyond, where you had Iranian drones land at the British base in Akrotiri on Cyprus. And so, yes, we are living through a transformational period of warfare. The question will be, do these systems in and of themselves, are they able to generate the kind of strategic effects to actually transform the situation on the battlefield? Right now, at a tactical level, we're seeing them very, very effective. But if you look at Russia and Ukraine, of course, they've been trading thousands and thousands of drone attacks on both sides. That's very much a war of attrition. We need to keep our eyes on what's happening in Iran to see if this will also become a war of attrition over the next weeks and months.
Former Air Force intelligence officer Jake Sotiriadis. Jake, thank you very much for your analysis today.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.